She didn't know it yet, but the reason money kept slipping through her fingers had nothing to do with her job, her bills, or her bad luck. It had to do with a sentence she repeated to herself 1,000 times without ever noticing. Somewhere in her childhood, she heard that money was hard to come by, that rich people were different, that wanting more was greedy. And without realizing it, she carried that belief into every paycheck, every bill, every dream she quietly buried. She is not alone. Millions of people work hard, stay disciplined, follow every piece of financial advice they're given, and still watch their bank accounts stay frozen in place. They blame the economy. They blame timing. They blame themselves. But the truth is quieter and far more powerful than any of that. The mind creates the conditions of the body, and it also creates the conditions of the wallet. Beneath every financial struggle is a thought pattern, often planted decades ago, running silently in the background like a program no one remembers installing. This is the hidden money block. It cannot be argued away with logic, because it doesn't live in logic. It lives in the subconscious, in the same place where old fears and forgotten wounds are stored. And the remarkable thing is this: it can be found, and it can be released, in as little as 2 minutes a day. Not through struggle. Not through forcing. But through a gentle, repeated practice that speaks directly to the part of the mind where these blocks were formed. Today, that practice will be revealed. A practice inspired by the work of Louise, who taught that the thoughts held in the mind today are creating the experiences of tomorrow. If money has felt like a locked door, this video is the key beginning to turn in that lock. Welcome back to Louise Manifest, the place where the mind is treated as the most powerful tool a person owns. Today's topic touches something deeply personal for almost everyone watching: money. Not the spreadsheets, not the budgets, not the 5-step financial plans that promise riches and rarely deliver them. Today's focus is the invisible layer underneath all of that, the layer of belief that decides, long before any paycheck arrives, how much abundance a person is willing to let into their life. Louise spent decades teaching that the body speaks in symptoms when the mind refuses to speak in words. The same principle applies to finances. A bank account often reflects, with uncomfortable accuracy, the beliefs a person holds about their own worth, their own safety, and their own right to receive. Many people affirm they want more money, yet a quieter voice underneath insists that money is dangerous, or sinful, or simply not meant for someone like them. That contradiction is the hidden block, and contradictions like this cannot be solved with willpower alone. This video introduces a simple 2-minute practice designed to interrupt that old programming. It does not require a vision board, a 45-minute meditation, or perfect concentration. It requires consistency and willingness. Over 7 chapters, the roots of money blocks will be uncovered: where they come from, how they hide in everyday language, how they connect to self-worth, family patterns, fear, and even physical tension in the body. Each chapter builds on the last, moving from awareness to active release. By the end, there will be a clear, repeatable 2-minute practice that can be done anywhere: in the car before work, in bed before sleep, in the bathroom mirror each morning. The goal is not to memorize complicated theory. The goal is to begin loosening a grip that has likely been tightening for years, sometimes for an entire lifetime. The subconscious mind is patient, and it is also remarkably responsive when finally addressed directly and consistently. So settle in, get comfortable, and stay open. The mind that has been quietly blocking abundance is also the mind capable of inviting it in. Today marks the beginning of that shift. Where money blocks really begin. Money blocks rarely begin with money itself. They begin with feelings absorbed long before a person ever held a coin or earned a wage. A child who watched parents argue over unpaid bills doesn't just witness stress, they absorb a belief that money equals conflict, scarcity, and fear. A child praised only for being humble or not greedy may grow into an adult who feels guilty asking for a raise or charging fair prices for their work. Religious or cultural messages equating wealth with moral failure can quietly embed themselves, resurfacing decades later as unexplained self-sabotage. Even well-meaning advice like, "money doesn't grow on trees," plants a subtle seed of scarcity that the subconscious mind takes quite literally. These early impressions don't disappear with age, they simply go underground, operating outside conscious awareness while still shaping decisions. This is why two people with similar incomes can have wildly different financial outcomes. Their underlying beliefs about deserving and receiving differ. Recognizing this is not about blaming parents or the past, it is about identifying the original source of a pattern so it can finally be addressed. Louise Hay's teaching often returns to one central idea: the thought patterns formed in childhood become the unconscious script followed in adulthood. The first step toward removing a money block, then, is simply noticing that one might exist and becoming curious rather than ashamed about where it came from. The secret language of self-worth. Money blocks and self-worth are almost inseparable, because money is so often treated as a scoreboard for personal value. A person who secretly believes they are not enough will often find ways, consciously or not, to ensure their bank balance reflects that belief. This can show up as undercharging for services, avoiding salary negotiations, or feeling intense discomfort when receiving unexpected gifts or windfalls. Self-worth issues often masquerade as humility, when in truth they are a quiet rejection of one's own value and contribution. The subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between, "I don't deserve this much money," and "I am not worthy." To it, they are the same sentence. This is why simply trying to earn more money, without addressing self-worth, often leads to that money disappearing just as quickly as it arrived. People with strong, unconscious self-worth tend to attract opportunities with less visible effort, almost as if doors open more easily for them. This isn't magic or luck, it's the natural result of a mind that isn't constantly working against its own desires. Healing self-worth doesn't require grand gestures, it requires consistent, gentle reminders that one's value isn't measured by income, appearance, or achievement. The 2-minute practice introduced later in this video directly targets this self-worth layer, because no amount of financial strategy can outrun a belief in personal unworthiness. Inherited beliefs and family patterns. Many money blocks aren't even personal, they are inherited, passed down like an old family heirloom nobody asked to receive. A family history of financial hardship, debt, or loss often creates a generational story. People like us never get ahead. Without realizing it, descendants may unconsciously recreate the very financial struggles their parents or grandparents lived through. This isn't fate, it's familiarity. The subconscious mind often gravitates toward what feels familiar, even when that familiarity is painful. Breaking an inherited pattern can feel disorienting at first, almost like betraying family loyalty, even though it is actually an act of healing for the whole lineage. Some people unconsciously fear out-earning their parents or siblings, worried it might create distance, jealousy, or guilt within the family. This fear, though rarely spoken aloud, can quietly cap income at a level that feels safe within the family's unspoken rules. Recognizing an inherited pattern is empowering rather than discouraging, because patterns that were learned can also be unlearned. It helps to mentally acknowledge the pattern directly. This belief about money was given to me, but it was never truly mine to keep. Releasing inherited financial fear often benefits not only the individual but, energetically, future generations as well, breaking a cycle rather than extending it. How fear disguises itself as logic. Fear is the most common hidden ingredient in money blocks, yet it rarely announces itself as fear, it disguises itself as practicality. Thoughts like, "I should be realistic," or "that's just how the economy is," often sound logical while quietly reinforcing limitation. Fear of failure can prevent someone from starting a business, asking for a promotion, or charging what their work is genuinely worth. Fear of success can be just as powerful, rooted in worries about increased responsibility, visibility, or losing relationships that feel tied to staying small. The nervous system often treats financial risk the same way it treats physical danger, triggering avoidance long before conscious reasoning gets involved. This is why purely rational financial advice often fails to change behavior. The fear response overrides logic every time. Noticing physical sensations like tightness in the chest or stomach when discussing money can reveal where fear is quietly stored in the body. Fear thrives in silence. Naming it out loud, even simply saying, "I notice I feel afraid right now," begins to loosen its grip. Louise Hay often emphasized that the body holds the emotional residue the mind tries to ignore, and money fear is no exception. Addressing fear directly, with compassion rather than criticism, is far more effective than trying to think one's way past it. The words that keep wealth away. Everyday language reveals money blocks more clearly than almost anything else, often in phrases said casually and without a second thought. Statements like, "I can't afford that," "money is tight," or "I'll never be rich," act as quiet affirmations repeated dozens of times a week. The subconscious mind doesn't filter for sarcasm or habit, it simply absorbs the words as instruction, reinforcing the very lack being described. Even joking about being broke sends a consistent signal to the deeper mind about what is expected and accepted as normal. Replacing these phrases doesn't mean denying reality, but rather choosing language that opens possibility instead of sealing the door shut. Instead of, "I can't afford that," a gentler reframe might be, "That's not a priority for me right now," which removes the charge of lack. Instead of "money is tight," try, "I am learning to manage and grow my resources," which shifts the tone from restriction to capability. Small shifts in language, repeated consistently, slowly retrain the subconscious mind's expectations around money. This is not about pretending everything is perfect, it's about refusing to keep verbally reinforcing scarcity as an identity. Paying attention to money language for just one day often reveals surprisingly consistent patterns worth gently correcting. The body keeps the financial score. Money blocks are not purely mental, they are stored physically, often as tension in the shoulders, jaw, stomach, or chest. Many people unconsciously brace their bodies when opening a bill, checking a bank account, or discussing finances with a partner. This physical bracing reinforces the emotional charge around money, creating a feedback loop between body and mind. Simply placing a hand on the chest or stomach while thinking about money can begin to soften this stored tension. Slow, deep breathing during financial tasks, paying bills, checking statements can interrupt the stress response before it spirals. The body often relaxes around money the same way it learns to relax in any other area, through repeated, gentle, safe exposure. Avoidance, while understandable, actually strengthens the block by reinforcing the idea that money is something to fear and avoid looking at. Gradually facing financial reality with calm breath, rather than panic, teaches the nervous system that money is safe to engage with. This physical layer is why purely mental affirmations sometimes feel hollow. The body needs reassurance too, not just the mind. The 2-minute practice ahead intentionally includes the body, not just words, because lasting change requires both. The 2-minute practice to release the block. The practice begins with 1 minute of slow breathing, hand resting gently on the chest or stomach, simply allowing the body to settle. While breathing, silently acknowledge the block without judgment. "I see this old belief about money. It once protected me. I am ready to release it now." In the second minute, repeat a simple, present tense affirmation slowly, such as, "I am open to receiving money easily and joyfully." The repetition matters more than the wording. Consistency over weeks teaches the subconscious mind a new, gentler expectation. This practice works best done first thing in the morning, before the day's stress patterns take over, or right before sleep, when the mind is most receptive. It can also be done in moments of financial stress, before opening a bill, before a salary conversation, before checking an account balance. There is no need to force belief immediately. Simply repeating the words consistently begins to soften resistance over time. Some days will feel more resistant than others, and that resistance is not failure, it's old programming surfacing to be released. Tracking small shifts, like feeling slightly calmer about money or noticing unexpected opportunities, reinforces that the practice is working. 2 minutes a day, done consistently, is enough to begin loosening a block that may have taken decades to form, because the subconscious responds to repetition, not intensity. Money blocks are rarely about money at all. They are about old beliefs absorbed in childhood, inherited fears passed down through generations, language repeated without thought, and tension stored quietly in the body. None of these were chosen consciously, and none of them have to remain permanent. The mind that built these blocks is the very same mind capable of dismantling them, gently, 2 minutes at a time. This is not about chasing wealth aggressively or forcing positivity over real financial challenges. It is about clearing the inner static so that the natural flow of abundance, which Louise Hay so often spoke of, has room to move freely again. As that inner static clears, the outer circumstances often begin shifting too, sometimes in unexpected, surprising ways that have little to do with logic and everything to do with energy and belief. If this video resonated, take just 2 minutes today to try the practice breathing gently, releasing the old story, and repeating a new, kinder belief about money. Share this video with someone who might need permission to believe abundance is possible for them too. Subscribe to Louise Hay Manifest for more practices like this one, and trust that the path toward financial ease begins not with a bigger paycheck, but with a quieter, steadier mind.